the word we seek the rights and freedoms of children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the high-level conference on justice for children, jointly organized by the European Union and the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF. It is part of our continued support to neighboring and enlargement countries and establishing and reform their juvenile justice system. And it is also a reflection that the fact that we care for our children, in fact, for all the children. Before taking the stock of the current state of play and what needs to be done in the future, let me underline my strong commitment in implementing the European Union's policy on the promotion and protection of children's rights. This calls for a reinforced cooperation with the national authorities and civil societies so that we can ensure that children are treated as fully fledged members of society. There are still many challenges regarding the rights of the child and juvenile justice within the EU. And the fact the EU itself has adopted several pieces of the legislation relevant to children in justice in recent years. For example, the Directive on Sexual Abuse and Exploitation, the Anti-Trafficking Directive, and we intend to propose a measure on suspect or defendants. The participation of enlargement countries this conference is very relevant because the topic for today's conference is priority area for the EU and the accession process, and that the EU acquires on children's rights and child protections is not limited to Chapter 23 Judiciary and Fundamental Rights. Number less than 17 others acquired chapters contain legal instruments that have important provisions on children's rights and protections. Despite some progress, there is still scope for considerable improvement when it comes to children's rights. I am thinking particular about the need to overcome institutionalizations of children and to promote preventive mechanism and support families. And our concern don't just end in there. Let me mention 6 other important areas that need to be addressed. Lack of priorities, children's rights and criminal proceedings. Lack of adapted facilities corresponding to specific needs to juvenile and detentions. Insufficient free legal aid for juveniles. Repressive response of juvenile offending. Lack of effective alternatives to detentions and hence an overuse of detentions. And lack of specific measure for trial victims, leading to unnecessary trauma and revictimizations. That is why it is so important that the neighboring and enlargement countries not only adhere to international human rights standards, but they must also ensure the effective implementations to a recently adopted criminal justice legislation, which in some countries is very progressive. Support for justice reform and one of the core pillars of the European Union external action. It aims at ensuring judicial independence, impartiality, and integrity. Increase the performance efficiency, accountability, and transparency of the justice sector, improving success to justice for the poorest and the most vulnerable, and improving detention conditions and introducing alternatives and imprisonment. Success justice reform initiatives are those built on national properties, enjoy full political commitment and national ownership, as well as reinforce partnership between civil society and state decision makers. I would like to remind you about the ongoing support that the European Commission is providing in the neighborhood and enlargement countries. In the neighborhood countries, the Commission is supporting juvenile justice reform within the rule of law agenda in Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, to the financial and technical assistance provided by the European Neighborhood and Partnership instruments. In the enlargement countries, the Commission has been providing support through the instruments for pre-accession assistance to strengthening child protection measure in the general and to support assistance for child victims. In Croatia, in context of child sexual abuse and juvenile justice system, in particular in Kosovo, Montenegro, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and Turkey. Support for civil society working in the area of child protection has also been provided. Enlargement countries are gradually aligning their legislation with the EU acquis. The Commission is monitoring this process intensively, including when it comes to the rights of the child and the difference chapter. On this point, I would like to underline that data collection is an important part of that monitoring work. The European Commission support enlargement and neighborhood countries to the strengthening their statistical capacity so that reliable data is available to support modern policy making. We remain committed to supporting projects and policies that enhance child protection system and strengthening the rights of children, including as a victims of or in the context of criminal proceedings. Recognizing that juvenile justice reform is a key entry point for the promotion and protection of children's rights. EU support to date in advancing the juvenile justice reform agenda has focused on two areas. First, law reform for the promotion and protection of children's rights, in particular by encouraging and supporting the enactment and review of national legislation to ensure its compatibility with relevant international standards on the rights of the child, in particular to the conventions and the rights of the child, and enhancing the capacity of law enforcement agency for investigation into the violation of children's rights in the development of child-friendly procedure in pretrial and court proceedings. Second, combating and discouraging a violation of children's rights, in particular by prohibiting violation of the children's rights and ill treatment of children in law, including criminal law, and ending impunity for violations of children's rights, and taking effective legislative, administrative, judicial, and other measures to prevent violation of children's rights under the jurisdictions of the state and combat impunity for such violations. We do not work alone. UNICEF is one of our traditional partnership whose vital works in the field is advising the children's rights agenda in line with the international standards and best practice. I am particularly proud of the cooperation that we have established with UNICEF to face up to consequence of the Syrian crisis. When I was in Jordan recently, I went to the Satari refugees camp and inaugurated a school run by UNICEF and funded by the European Commission. Through this concrete cooperation, we are giving children living in the camps a semblance of normal life and the opportunity to acquire knowledge for the rebuilding their lives. Through innovative approaches, research, know-how, and constant involvement, UNICEF has greatly contributed in advising countries on how to reform their juvenile justice system based on modern legislation, policy, and operations. Today, we have the opportunity to discuss our achievement, but also what remains to be done and how so can enjoy their rights and freedoms and state can properly respond on their demands and expectations. That is the word we seek. It is our mutual interest and it is our common goal. The children deserve nothing less. Thank you.